Hello, bug catchers. It's Tanner. Josh wouldn't be here, I would say, actually. I think he's pretty embarrassed by the egregious mistake he made this week. You will notice when the episode begins in earnest here in a moment that the audio quality is not what it usually is. We had some issues with our recording this week, and we had to kind of fall back on our Zoom backup record. So the episode is still perfectly listenable. We hope you still enjoy it, and we'll be back to our normal selves again next week, hopefully. Please enjoy the episode.
It's good.
Hello, and welcome to Experience Share. It's a Pokemon podcast starring me,
Resharem,
aka Tanner Greenring, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Fungosh.
Fungus?
Fungus.
That's gross. I hate that you made me that. But it's a good nickname, you know.
And we are joined once again by our old friend, Hydragoni.
That one's really beautiful. Thank you for having me again, fellas.
AKA Tony Smith, Anthony Bryan Smith. He spells the Bryant with an I.
He made sure to clarify that, even though we were both familiar. And
well, it's the right way to spell it. If you do it any other way, Clippy freaks the fuck out.
Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, Anthony, and welcome to the show, Bug Catchers. We are playing through Pokemon Black and White, gym by gym, week by week. I am playing Pokemon Black. Josh is playing Pokemon White. Yes. Tony, what are you playing?
I am playing Pokemon Black.
Pokemon Black. Welcome to the club. We have made it to the end of the line. We've beaten all 8 gyms. We are taking on the Elite Four this week. We will be doing some battling at the end of the episode. But before we get into any of that, Tony, I would love to hear about your character, your journey, the ups, the downs, the heartaches, the triumphs.
So
what's been going on with you?
How do I begin this? This Pokemon game is the first Pokemon game that came out when I was an adult with a job. At this phase in my life, I am 22, 23. I'm just starting in media. I believe I skipped this one. I didn't have the time for it. I have no strong relationship with these Pokemon at all. This game sucked for me largely until this episode, which I'm so happy that this is the episode. My first time playing this game, this one was a slog. I do not like the towns and cities themselves seem to be designed by this lovely optimistic team, and then the Pokemon themselves seem to be designed by someone going through a really messy divorce. Each one of them a complete stranger to me. Even the ones on my team, I use them over and over again, and just I feel nothing for any of you. It's really been bad.
I would say for most of the Pokemon in this game, there is Gen 1 equivalent or Gen 1 or 2 equivalent.
A little sadder. It's a sort of Return to Oz take on Gen 1. That I forget what the thing is called because nothing in this game sticks. But that bug-eyed creep that's everywhere.
Josh?
Petrat.
Yeah. And the thing that evolved it, but it is, I was thinking
Watchog.
Watchog. First of all, what is that name? Second of all,
so lazy.
Disgusting. Just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And you have to see it so much. If I had one word to describe this Pokemon, it would be unsolicited. And that's largely all of the Pokemon in this game.
Looking at a Raticate or a Furret, fine. I could deal with that. But looking at the Watchog all the time is so just foul.
It feels like Josh and I have been doing this bit for the ads for Anchor where we're pitching new shows and we just go find Pokemon knockoffs, and Pokemon Black and White feels like a Pokemon knockoff. It feels like they saw Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon and they're okay, we can do that,
I was going to say this, I couldn't agree more. This game feels like a fanfic. It does. There's something about it that feels so incomplete. It feels a little bit like they were in a room and they were like, how do we make this really, really edgy, but still like kindergarten safe? And that like they never really quite square that tension. I do think that there's a way to do it. Like so many of my favorite like cartoons do it. They're creepy, but they're also like age appropriate. And like this game for me really misses the mark until one moment that we'll get to in this episode. But if I were in any other episode, I'd be nothing but bad things to say. This episode though, I do have one like really, really like fawning thing to say about this game.
I might be counter to both of you this week because I thought this endgame, well, to your point, Tony, there's so many like rich, lush, beautiful, like full feeling set pieces and like environments.
Oh, yeah. The environments are great.
Great. But then they just like, they hit you with these like 45-minute gets this end cutscenes. And you're just like, I couldn't possibly care about this. You could not convince me to care about this. So this is the first time you ever played this gen, Tony?
When I was starting out at Newsweek, like some 8 years ago, I got as far as the like Muna plot where like she gets taken away. And then like I just got sidetracked by like the insanity of media and like really didn't come back to I also skipped XY. Like I came back for Sun Moon because it was like, oh, cool takes on like the older ones. But I skipped the next two generations. So I was really, really looking forward to this playthrough to see what I missed. There's so many people that I know that like Black White is like their favorite.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How?
I think it's just like it's probably the first one they played, right? It's the one they like came up with.
Yeah, it was like
that
kind
second
of a soft
gen
reset.
of Pokemon players.
Yeah.
And like, I guess you could see if this is your first game, Pokemon Black or White, it would be pretty difficult to go back and play something like Red or Blue or Gold or Silver. I think it would just feel like archaic, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah,
so,
that's the one thing that I think is regrettable. Where like I think that, you know, there's some things that are admirable about this gen, but I think the main issue would be if you started with this, it would be so hard to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And missing out on the previous gens is such a foundational, you know, like you're missing out, which sucks.
I have Bulbapedia open and they keep showing me video ads in the corner. And one of them was they apparently remade an episode of the Pokemon anime with Oreos.
What
does that mean?
They took Oreos.
Okay.
They took an episode, they condensed it down to monocolor, black and white. And then they took Oreos and they turned them into a big grid of Oreos. And then they put the cookie side up when it was black and the frosting side up when it was white. And they reanimated an entire episode of Pokemon. So if I'm seeming like a little distant.
What are they? I just don't get it. Are the Oreos Pokemon?
No, the Oreos are bits. They're pixels. Do you get it? They're pixels.
I'm looking for the ad. I'm opening my Bulbapedia tabs.
Don't bother. It's
Gosh,
very
this
distracting.
is so straightforward. Like this concept is really straightforward.
You know what a pixel is?
I'm a visual learner. I need to see it.
It's unimportant. Let's talk about the leg of the journey we were on this week. How about that?
Okay.
We ended our journey last week in Opelucid City, where we took on two different people. I took on Drayden, Dragon
Iris.
Daddy, and you took on Iris, Dragon Daughter.
I forget where we landed. She's his daughter, maybe, we think.
Yeah, I think so. I just call him Dragon Daddy because that's, you know, what he looks like to me.
All the dragon type trainers are daddies. That's their thing.
Mm-hmm. He is especially a daddy, though. We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
This game is characterized by like the hottest trainers of all time with the ugliest Pokemon of all time.
I do have a trainer that I'm going to be highlighting shortly that I was quite aroused by.
You were taken by Getsus?
No.
You really liked Getsus's whole look. You liked his big robe.
Hey, I do like the robe look, and I'm excited that we're approaching robe season again.
Do you ever wear a robe out of the house, or is that forbidden?
No, but if I had a driveway, I would definitely walk out and like get the newspaper. In the
I do that.
But what am I? I'm walking around the hallway in a robe. That sounds like I'm in an asylum or something.
I wake up in the morning, I go downstairs, I let the dog out, and I go into the backyard with him, and I stand there on the deck and watch him poop while I drink a little coffee in my robe.
That sounds
very suburban.
Delightful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started our journey in Opelucid City, and then we went northward towards Route 10. And so I will say it was a long leg because it's the Elite Four, it's the Victory Road. Like there was a lot to do. We had to kind of grind it out. But in terms of story beats and set pieces and all that, it's a pretty brief leg of the journey so far. There's really only like 3 things that happen. It's Route 10, Victory Road, and then the Elite Four and everything that goes along with it. But we did get one sweet little route here, Route 10.
I loved this route.
You liked Route 10.
I thought it was a beautiful route. I loved the soundtrack. It's jaunty. I like that it has a bunch of different types of grass. There's bridges. There's a bunch of little like singular path walkways. And there's a lot of good looking Mon, and there's a lot of good looking trainers too.
Good is generous. Was there a Mon in particular that you were drawn towards?
Well, there's 2 in different ways.
2? Not allowed to have 2.
I don't really have a category for this. So do you want me to cover the sweetie and then I can talk about the other one?
I'm on the SS Josh now. I'm riding the SS Josh. I'm on your journey.
Well, I got a few comments here. So let's get the easy stuff out of the way. Joshy's sweetie is Rufflet.
Rufflet
which you
is
just find in the wild.
A little cutie bird. Is this the one that turns into like a
eagle?
Mean, big
breviary,
mean, like vulture?
It turns into breviary. It's like a golden eagle. It's like literally the like American Pokemon or something in its trivia.
Okay, I guess I see it.
It was one of many confusing signifiers that were like, this is America, that you'd be like, oh, okay, I kind of see that. And then you get something else that would completely bewilder you as to like what part of the world inspired this region. It's okay. Like, you're really grasping at straws for this one as a sweetie, is my like deeply honest opinion.
You don't think Rufflet is a sweetie? You look at that thing and you don't think you want to like...
I'm challenged by it as a sweetie. I don't think it's necessarily not a sweetie. Its eyes sort of throw me off. I'm not totally sure.
Like, its sprite does a little like head bob. I think it's cute, definitely. I'm not saying Braviary is. I think Braviary looks cool, but yeah. Rufflet's...
Wait, do you like Volibee?
Nice. No, of course not. The counterpart, its counterpart is Volibee and Mandibuzz. I don't like those at all.
They made Mandibuzz too sexy. They gave Mandibuzz like luscious eyelashes.
It looks like a vulture that you would see in Flintstones, and it's like sexualized for some reason.
It's cool that Volibee's in a skull.
I guess.
This little run of Pokemon between 626 Buffalant clear through like 630 are supposed to be like the American Pokemon. Is that what you're telling me?
I guess so.
Supposedly.
Oh, they're all 4. Can we talk about when I felt like the Pokemon fan club chairman and his Rapidash when I first spied the summer form of Sawsbuck? You gotten a gander at this thing?
No, let me take a look. The summer's form, especially, huh?
Yeah, it's the robust leaves up top and it's stout, taut legs.
Pretty good.
Sawsbuck is now that is a handsome Pokemon, and I don't think we can. There's no disputing that.
I sort of like the winter form the best.
It's very sassy, yeah. I mean, they're all good.
The little boots.
Sawsbuck is a genuinely unbelievable Pokemon. Both of its forms, I think, are just so gorgeous. And I think that this game is at its best when it is beautiful and when it's flavorful. And I think Sawsbuck represents the intersection of both of those things.
Wow, a rare compliment from Tony Smith about Pokemon Black and White, and it comes in the form of this luscious beast.
It's good. It's good.
Just that's a well done Mon.
Can I talk about a Pokemon I saw on this route?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It was my You Make Me Bark Pokemon of the week. And it was called Heatmore.
Heatmore's here?
Heatmore's here?
Uh-huh.
I think Heatmore is in Victory Road.
Oh, I think I encountered it here.
No, Heatmore's right out. So the space right outside Victory Road for Bulbapedia purposes and also in-game purposes is technically Victory Road. So you're right, it's outside. But yeah, the game
that must have been it.
Right.
Well, let's talk about Hemore anyway. It's ugly.
Hideous, but also from a previous generation, right?
No, so? it's the like anteater.
Sure.
Fire breathing anteater.
It's obviously supposed to be an anteater.
It's new.
Its model is ugly. They didn't put any details on the face. They just gave it like a little like worm head with an eye. And then it's got like tubes coming out of its genitals.
Yeah.
You're really never a fan of that. You don't like that.
No, I don't. Do you like that?
No, I'm just calling it out as it's consistently said with like.
I think if there's any business around the genitals on any of these Pokemon, it's like it immediately puts up the like red flag for me. You know,
that's fair.
I get on my back foot the second I see stuff around the genitals on these Pokemon. I just think it's ugly. I think it's wearing like a little singlet too. It's one of those Pokemon where someone has put it in a singlet.
Steve Human, yeah.
So yeah, I just think it's ugly.
Yeah, I agree. I don't love Hemore. Tony?
It's gross. I'm not as offended by its gyrating hips as Tanner is, but
I don't like its little flame that comes out like a slithering tongue either.
Yeah. No, it's gross all around. Like there's no getting around that. I guess I just like this particular part of the game, like the Pokemon are by and large, with the one exception, irredeemable.
Yeah, I mean it's like how the Bible is always the New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
You know,
of course.
Every Pokemon in this game is hideous so far, like most of them, with the exception of Josh's sweeties, obviously. Although a couple of your sweeties have been
you disputed a number of them this season. I know,
because this is such an ugly gen. No offense to people who love this gen.
There's something, if this is supposed to be like Northeastern America, New York City, there's something to be said about like beautiful cities, hideous Pokemon. It's like, oh yeah, there is a rot underneath it all. But like, as someone playing through it, this is unfun. I can see how getting pitched the concept of something like this would be really exciting, though.
Yeah, do we know if it's the same team who worked on this game that worked on the previous games? Is it always the same team working on these games?
Essentially. Like sometimes the like creative director swaps, but like, I mean, for example, Heatmore and Durant, like the one thing I would say about both of them that's cool is that it is an anteater and an ant type, which is like, you know, they have like this real life relationship. But for example, Ken Sugimori designed both of those, and he's been around since Gen 1. Like he did all the artwork for all of the original Pokemon. It
feels like a different creative team at times.
The story directors often change, which I think that's pretty clear. But like nice the artists and like the kind of a lot of the writers do stay the same.
It's nice that Durant is steel and Heatmore is fire, because that's true. The fire anteater would eat the steel ant.
Right. Like I think that when they do that stuff, like the Seviper and Zangoose thing is fun. Like I like when they do that, even if I don't always love the design.
Yeah. Tony, anything interesting hop out at you on Route 10?
Just how sort of pat it was. I mean, I think that I was attracted to the same thing that Josh was, which was like, it's pretty. The music's fun. And I think that by and large, this game is at its best when it's really pretty and like, and really flexing on us with how pretty it is. But by and large, this route gave me no buzz at all, unfortunately.
You didn't even get a buzz from one other thing I want to introduce.
Josh, Trainer, something in the chat.
Trainer Banger is back. There's another trainer that I thought was a bit of a banger, and is the veteran type.
Veteran type.
Get a gander at these. Male and the female. They both have nice little outfits. The boy has a black trench coat.
Oh yeah, and like a little like Irish guy hat. What do you call those?
Irish guy hats.
News cap.
The technical term.
Newsy cap.
Yeah, just
Irish.
Yeah, that's the proper term. And then the lady's got like she's like saucily removing her sunglasses, and then she's got kind of a scarf, and then again like a black pea coat. And I just
Joshua, I want to draw your attention to the Sun and Moon Veterans Prize, and I want to just kind of gauge your reaction to them. See if you still feel great about the veterans.
I would say they maybe took a turn,
particularly the male.
Yeah,
the male veteran in Sun and Moon.
The male starts looking.
He looks like Chad Kroger,
rough, yeah,
in like cargo shorts.
For me,
that's a pretty like big diversion. Like
he looks like a pickup
diversion
artist
from what they used to look like. Usually the sprites kind of like evolve, but that's like here's a new type of fucking veteran.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of new types of veterans, it's like you think about, I believe the first veteran ever introduced into this game was Lieutenant Surge in Gen 1. And it's like,
right,
are we ever going to see what the war was? Like, where did y'all serve? There are all of these like weird references to soldiers that we get peppered throughout the game, weird references to warfare, but we don't ever get the actual war.
I suppose Unova got pulled into the war at some point, right?
Well, of course.
At some point, they something happened.
Surely it was a world war.
Unova soil, and they were compelled to join the Great War. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, was Lieutenant Surge described as an American?
Yeah, the Lightning American.
Right.
Wild.
They're adult versions of ace trainers. So they're veterans of just battling Pokemon, I guess, theoretically. But I like the World War theory.
Yeah.
Well, we have games where like only two regions are connected. So like, not to be one of those people that's like the apocalypse happened in this video game, because that's my least favorite like form of lore. But like, we have these sort of isolationist nations separated by like, not just like always time, like in this generation, we do have that huge time jump, but like space as well. And it would track if there was a war, and now as a result, everything's just sort of like weird and isolationist, barring two regions.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's true.
That's the main reason too why I think it's commonly cited as a theory for why there are no guns. Like they all got banned after.
Maybe they just weren't invented in this. Well, and that comes into play later during one of Getsis's many extended cutscenes.
Yeah.
He talks about like, so it turns out that Getsis is the mastermind behind all of this. And he was the one who was trying to convince
way ahead
everyone to give up their Pokemon so that they would be powerless to resist him when he decided to sort of sweep across the Unova region and take over with Team Plasma. But we'll get to that. Moving on from Route 10. Route 10 takes us to the entrance of Victory Road, which is a slightly different setup in this game. It's this sort of like winding spiral staircase path through a mountain, in a mountain, on the outside of a mountain.
Yeah, it's kind of got like Mount Coronet vibes.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the most interesting Victory Road we've encountered.
I think that's probably true.
Mm-hmm.
The design is actually interesting. It gives you some pause to like figure it out.
There's no boulder puzzles. There is like slip slide puzzles. You kind of have to like make sure you're sliding down the hills correctly to find the route that you need to.
There's some boulders to push too, but it's just to clear a path. You don't have to like
it's not a puzzle.
Maneuver them. Yeah,
do a long thing when you're attacked by wild Pokemon. Yeah, admittedly, Victory Roads tend to be my least favorite thing in Pokemon games. This one I thought was innovative. Like as it's probably of all of the Pokemon games that I've played the Victory Roads of, this one's the best one. You're also outside a few times too, which breaks the monotony of the cave part of it. And the falling down stuff is fun. Like if Victory Road is your thing, and there are people that like love Victory Road, like it's their favorite thing ever, could not be me. Like, and if you are someone that like really, really wants Victory Road to be new, like this satisfies both. It's good.
I think I don't have a specific love for Victory Road, but it is always a place where I end up grinding a ton. It's like there's tons of high-level Pokemon, there's tons of high-level trainers, so it sort of becomes my end game grinding destination. And in every game, and I don't think this one's necessarily an exception, you get pretty sick of the few Pokemon that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was more Pokemon and more new Pokemon in this Victory Road than there were in past Victory Roads.
It has a better variety. Like it's not The other issue with so many of the victory roads is that you need to grind there, and then they only have like rock and ground types. And in this one, you get Boldor, you get Woobat, you get Mean Fu, you get Durant, and then there's Excadrills, and then you can go in the water for Basculins and shit. But like, so it's multiple different types and like EVs that you can collect as well. So it's a lot better for training. And thank God it's got trainers in it too.
Yeah, lots of trainers.
Yeah, like the victory roads that don't have trainers, and I forget which one that was most recently, but that sucks.
I feel like a lot of them don't have trainers, but
they all die, of course, on their way.
There is a big set piece at the end of it, which is also pretty unique for a victory road. Victory road, you usually just kind of grind your way through, and you pop out, and you're at the Indigo Plateau or the final guys, the Elite Four.
Yeah.
But this one, I don't think I was equipped at the point in my playthrough to actually do this, but you can take on this big beefy boy called Terrakion.
Oh, Terrakion, yeah.
Terrakion.
One of the swords of justice.
Did you do this? Could you do this?
I did. I captured him. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is one of those
I like how he stomps his sprite. It's just
this
like
is one of the legendary deer that we
bull.
were talking about last week with Cobalion, Virizion,
yeah,
and Keldeo. I don't think Keldeo necessarily counts. He seems to be discounted from a lot of these.
That's like I think one of the event ones. So
yeah.
He looks super cool. Like
I
really,
like Terrakion's design a lot.
Yeah, I think he's probably the coolest looking of all these legendary musketeers, is apparently what they're called.
Oh, that's
really?
Yeah,
musketeers.
Because the group is based on here's a Josh E. Facty for you.
Okay.
This is from Bulbapedia. The group is based on the French novel The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. Cobalion represents Athos, the oldest and de facto leader of the group. The Terrakion represents Porthos, the strongest, heaviest, and largest member of the group. Virizion represents Aramis, the most feminine, vain, and romantic member of the group. I don't know how you're supposed to get that out of this. You're just supposed to look at these guys and be like, there they are.
The Three Musketeers,
Three
obviously.
Musketeers.
That's a cool inspiration to chase. I've got to say, the thing for me with Terrakion or however you say it, what a Buffalon shaming Pokemon. It's like you could have done, like, there are so many like isolated moments of this game where it's like it's really truly inspired, and getting like back to back this like grayer version of Taurus that you're like, maybe he's a little queer, but like apart from that, whatever. And then like Terrakion, it's like, oh, this game could be that. Like you did have Pokemon like this in you, and it's like it's awesome, but it's a reminder that like it's not that awesome across the board too.
Yeah, this whole journey is a grind, like victory roads always are. But it is nice to have, even if it is a little bit of a letdown, it is nice to have like a to-do at the end of Victory Road.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Victory Roads of the past, you just sit and you like grind through it, and what you get at the end is like essentially like a checkpoint. You get like a Pokemon Center and a Pokemon Mart, and then you get ready for the Elite Four. But this one was like you're building towards something. You're climbing this mountain, and at the top is this cool ass Pokemon that you can catch if you're Josh.
Is Moltres the last generation where like the Victory Road has a legendary in it?
I think so, yeah. I was just trying to figure that out. That's the only one I remember.
That's the only one I remember too. That's really
was Moltres at the end of Victory Road?
It's in Victory Road. I
don't remember that. But yeah, I think so.
You always just kill him.
Oh yeah, I do.
Well, Tanner, let me tell you something. I'm looking at the trivia page on Terrakion, and I see that Terrakion may be a combination of terra, obviously, Latin for earth, or terracotta, a clay-based material that is turned into ceramics. So couldn't you have made a case for Terrakion
it's
being
made
a
out of
fucking
ceramic
inanimate object, and you could have had a legendary on your team?
Man, I wish. That would have been nice, because my team sucks.
I'm making the case for you, man.
No, I don't think I can do it.
Maybe I want you to have a legendary on that team, so maybe you could stand a chance. But
Rock fighting is kind of fun though. No,
yeah,
no, I'm
right.
not gonna catch this guy.
Okay.
Once you're done with Victory Road, it's now then on to the Elite Four. The Elite Four have a pretty cool setup in this gen.
They do.
Josh,
they did well at this as well.
You can go any direction. Who'd you start with? Tell me who you started with.
Well, I'm a big.
After this break,
I knew it was coming that time.
We're at the Elite Four.
Back. Yes,
gentlemen, we've made it. The Elite Four here
really is the Elite Four this time.
yeah. The Pokemon League here is cool. It's like a big like pedestal on the top of this mountain, and each of the 4 staircases coming off the pedestals can be accessed and unlocked to go and take on a different member of the Elite Four in the order of your choosing.
And it allows you, because of that you can go back into the central like plaza and save, which is nice. Although I think I've had more challenging Elite Four, but we'll get to that.
You didn't struggle with this Elite Four.
No, I struggled with, I think, 2 of them specifically, but then the other 2 were like a joke.
Okay. Which 2? We're here. Let's talk about it.
All right. Well, Chantal, who I started with, was problematic because I just did clockwise, orderly.
Sean.
Yeah, it's like spelled like Sean, like Shaun.
From the spelling of her name down to how she's dressed, like this is Kirsten Cinema. Like,
oh my god!
It's and just like they're weird in the same way.
Yes.
Kirsten Cinema would have ghost Pokemon in the same way.
Definitely.
Like
God, and her like illustration is she's looking like aloof and reading a fucking book. That's exactly.
She's dressed like a Gotharita.
Like a joke. She's just like Kristen Cinema.
It's cinema, like
She's
literally, and just like also like if Congress had an Elite Four, Cinema would be the like one of them and the Ghost Trader.
And just like this year, Kristen Cinema is causing me the most trouble. AKA Chantal and the Elite Four caused me a lot of fucking trouble.
Where did you get hung up?
Well, just because she's Ghost and she killed Jay Peterman, the BEM, like basically immediately because I tried to use it because it has Shadow Ball that was super effective against them too. But then, of course, Come for Egregious just drops its Shadow Ball and then one hit it and it's out. And then I just had to like Jellicent was still pretty easy because electric, I could do Thunderbolt. But Golurk killed Jerry, the Samurott. And then I didn't have an easy answer to Chandelure. And then I kind of
it's good for me. I like to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got like eventually I killed it with Archeops because I had Rock Slide. But it wasn't, I mean, Kristen Cinema took out, I think, 4 of my Mon, which was pretty dicey for the opener. That was my opener too. What about you two?
I also struggled with my opener. My opener was Grimsley. I just I don't know what to do with dark type Pokemon, I guess. What is good against dark type Pokemon?
See, Grimsley was tough too. It's fighting. And
I don't have any fighting.
My only fighting move is Revenge on Samurott, which is not even very good. So, and he got fucking crushed by I don't know which one eventually.
I'm really bad at these games and at type matchups, as you both know. But I feel like I'm starting to get my head around a lot of types.
Dark has been around since Gen 2.
I know, but I still don't understand what it's good against or what's good against it. So I feel like it was Grimsley was super effective against like half of my team. I think it was like
it's good against Ghost and Psychic and I think only fighting is good against Dark.
Dark is great.
Dark is good. Dark's a
Bug
good
too, I believe. I believe Bug is also super effective.
Oh, Bug.
Against...
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no. Embor's fighting move pool naturally, if you don't breed it, is like kind of bullshit. And the fighting TM that you get from that gym is deeply bullshit. So you're going into this battle kind of like shit out of luck if you don't, like, if you haven't gone out of your way to get a fighting Pokemon. Fortunately, my Emboar
This
was
was tough for
strong
me
enough
too.
that, like, Flare Blitz was taking everything out. But Grimsley, I would say, was the one that gave me
Who's
the
like
most
the Riddler.
trouble. Yeah.
He's got a look. He's
Grimsley
got a
was my
look
number
about him.
2 most troubling. Yeah.
He's like Morrissey.
Yeah.
He's kind of got this like goth vibe to him a little bit, a little grim.
It's exactly that. It's if Count Olaf were in the Smiths, like it would be Grimsley.
Tony nailing it with these.
Yeah. I like him. He's got a cool scarf too. There was a time in college where I was convinced I was going to be like a scarf wearer.
A scarf guy.
You know, like, I'm just always going to wear a
yeah,
scarf.
I'll try that, I think.
I think it was like, it was the 2000s, you know? It was like, we're all going to wear scarves. It didn't stick. No one really liked it.
I kept trying. I would wear them, and then it's like, because when I went to college was the first time I'd literally ever even been to the East Coast, and I was like, oh, it's the Northeast, so I'm gonna get a pea coat, and then I'm gonna wear scarves all the time, and I'm gonna be this fucking like bespoke intellectual homosexual, and I'm going to this liberal arts school and fucking whatever. And then I would just wear the stupid scarf, and then I'd end up getting like wasted, and then it would blow off in the wind, and I just lost like 7 scarves, and then I was like, all right, scarves are going to work for my lifestyle.
It's an expensive lifestyle. Yeah.
The Banana Republic Gap chokehold on all of us in the late aughts was really, really something. Also, I will use this opportunity to say Josh and I technically met in college when he came to visit Wesleyan, but neither of us remember meeting each other. But there is a photo of us hanging out in the same room. So there you have it.
The other 2 trainers in this Elite Four are a little easier to get through for at least me. It was Caitlin, who's the flying type. No, psychic. She's not flying. She's psychic. Psychic.
While we're on the subject, it's so weird to get an acknowledgement of psychic type in this game after like virtually no psychic types.
Right? It's so neglected in this gen.
It's a really neglected,
which is also similar to Gen 1, actually. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, where like they have no weaknesses and they're like gods in a weird way. But I've got to say, I love a good room in a video game, and this Elite Four gives us 2 great rooms. Chantal's, which, like, if that was the best one there was with its levitating, fiery little books, I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. But Caitlin's room with its, like, opulence and it's, like, floating you up this golden thing, and then, like, a curtain draws, and there she is. Caitlin was tough for me to get through because I was screaming so much. Like it was, this was it for me. Like, holy shit.
You're just shook.
All of these set pieces for these Elite Four are really like interesting. Like they all have the same setup where it's like a little spire that you need to like travel up. But they all do it in different ways and they all look very unique. I agree with you, Tony, that Caitlin's like, it transported me to this like place where it was like, it's supposed to be sort of an old-timey kind of bedroom with this weird starscape in the background behind like a canopied bed. And it was like so comfortable and so sublime that it just made me want to like be there. It was like, I wish that were my bedroom. I wish my bedroom were a canopied bed on the top of a spire with like surrounded by like a planetarium style like starscape.
I really couldn't agree more. And it's like, this, for me, this Elite Four, even though 2 of them are like wild easy and 2 of them are a little bit more on the difficult side, this Elite Four, it feels like for me, they decided what this end game was going to be, because this is like undeniably, even if this doesn't redeem the entire game for you, I feel like this is undeniably the best part of the game in terms of like things to love and their density and the rate at which they come at you. And like for me, Caitlin, the design on Caitlin's part of this, up until something that we're inevitably going to get to, is like the strongest part of this Elite Four for me. Like I was really wowed by what they did with this room.
Yeah, I totally agree. Joshua, you didn't like it as much?
No, I agree.
No, you're a
I wasn't sure if
you're more of a Marshall man.
Say you feel right at home.
You just feel at home. It feels cozy. Yeah, I like it.
I liked all of them. I do think that Chantal's was my favorite, though. I like how they did all of the books like library. Like I loved the Necrene Museum for the same reason. I just think they did the dark, like kind of dimly lit, like library vibe really well.
My one thing with Chantal's is, and this is such a nitpick, I almost wish they'd combined what Chantal's is with the library gym earlier in the game and made like a ghosty themed library gym with like a spooky little puzzle in it, rather than like a more spooky robust thing that you just sort of walk up and like a library gym where you like are looking at obvious books.
Yeah. I think Caitlin's has the superior, like it's the only one where it actually kind of like animates and it's interactive.
We should probably describe Grimsley's too. We kind of skipped it. His is like a ballroom. Apparently, Grimsley's.
Yeah, it's fine.
Grimsley's backstory is that his family was rich and then lost all of their money, and now he is a gambling addict trying to win his way back to being like a rich fancy boy.
Wow,
they do not get into that.
Lee.
Yeah.
That is dark.
And that's why he's dark type, because he's entered this seedy underbelly to try to win back his riches. And then the last Elite Four is Marshall, the fighting type trainer. His is the least interesting, and also he was the easiest to beat.
He was a joke. Archie Ops one-hit KO'd fucking all of them.
Yeah.
He is.
I mean, the fighting type Elite Four is always the biggest joke. Sorry,
always the biggest joke, just because it's like nothing ever like resists psychic or flying. But if there is one thing that makes Marshall special, it's that he is dressed like E.T. had to blend in at Old Navy.
There you go.
Like it is the worst outfit I've ever seen in a Pokemon game, I think.
Yeah, he's wearing sort of like everything
5
is
little
big.
Toddlers all in a big martial arts outfit,
and his pants are huge. He looks like me in 6th grade with my like skunk striped Jinkos.
It's very like, as someone who grew up always changing sizes, like it's very much like my mom gambling on the fact that I would either grow into something or you could put a belt on it if I didn't, and just like here you go.
He is wearing a pretty conspicuous belt. It's kind of keeping the whole outfit together.
Also, inexplicably, his hair matches his pants down to like the hex code. It's a real.
And I think it's his natural hair because his eyebrows are that color too. So
so he designed the pants around his hair color.
Yeah. Must have. He was a breeze, an absolute breeze. Throw, sock, conquer, Mayan Shao.
Acrobatics, 4 times, 4 KOs.
I just had Sigalith out there. Sigalith was just like unstoppable against this guy. But yeah, I agree. This was not the hardest Elite Four we've ever faced, especially because like we came into this week with a hard level cap. We decided for Tony's sake that we would cap all of our Pokemon at 55. So it's not like we could even like power level to really OP against these guys.
Well, and as we're about to discover, you can't just keep throwing yourself up against the Elite Four like you usually can.
Yeah.
It makes grinding like not ideal.
Yeah. So then once the Elite Four are defeated, naturally you would go and face off against the region's champion, who we've met several times over the course of this game. His name is Alder. He's got a red hair and a ponytail.
He leaps over cliffs.
You go up to Alder's temple, and
Champion's Temple.
Who is there but N, that rascal from the Team Plasma, who has just defeated Alder in battle and claimed the title of champion for himself. And in doing so, took over all of the Unova region and raised his castle, confoundingly raised his castle from underground. Apparently he's been building this castle underground underneath the Elite Four Indigo Plateau, or whatever you call
the Pokemon League is unsuitable for his dragon. And so I guess secretly Team Plasma is like built a castle that can rise out of the ground suddenly.
And it does.
Here it does.
It's kind of cool. It's definitely like a bigger thing than has happened in a Pokemon game previously.
Well, yeah,
But
and they do cutscene with like 3D where it actually rises up out of the ground.
it also kind of sucks
Why
because
does it suck?
it's pretty bad looking.
I think
It's
the exterior sucks. The interior I thought was pretty festive.
The interior is cool. The exterior is pretty
I'm
No, it looks
I'm
like a
of the-
shitty castle.
I'm really of the exact same mind. I mean, down to like the Elite Four, like the exterior of that building is like this hideous, vague autumnal gold that only exists in like Starbucks pitch decks. But like and sort of like the rising from the ground fits that same thing. It's also really confusing because like where in the American Northeast is this like desert that you keep insisting is like here?
I think
Yeah.
everything in this game, the America of this game has been contracted because like at some point we were talking about being in Vegas and it's like obviously Vegas isn't nowhere near New York City, but
Yeah, it's confusing because it makes it seem like the whole region is like just the Northeast or like New York, but then you get this shit where it's like Nimbasa is just obviously Las Vegas, and then N's Castle is the Breakers or something.
But there's also a distinctly like North African thing going on in this game, and this is part of that. I mean, even with a name like Mombasa, but when you eventually
And we had the African mask in the Nakreen Museum as well.
And like we've got a mummy, we've got a sarcophagus Pokemon with an ability called Mummy. But like for me, like the exteriors of like it's aesthetically like all over the place, but the interior of it in terms of vibes, like this felt like a classic J horror to me in a way that I was like, bring it on. This is so bracing. This is the first time that I've been surprised after beating the Elite Four since Gen 1, where it's like, hey, there's one more battle and it's with Gary. Surprise. This was so cool to me. And I was so excited to like walk around in it and explore. And it delivered what I think this game delivers.
you're specifically talking about N's Castle?
N's Castle.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier too. Like, I think N's Castle makes it for why this is like interesting as a game, at least, even if it's not the best.
It's I'd say that the thing about N that like really dulls the blade of N is that for whatever reason, the people who make this game are like, the main character is always going to be a completely blank slate. So you have to like develop what would typically be a protagonist development with like the two annoying or the one annoying best friend. So like the weird like theme that the end of the game tries to drive home of like ideals versus like dreams is it's just sort of like, okay, but in terms of like the vibe of it, I think it's so cool.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think N, your character is obviously a blank slate, but N is also just such a weird character. You can never quite tell what N's motivations are, like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? It constantly flips. It even flips in this scene. He's passion, right? And your dreams.
No. I thought he was truth and we're ideals.
Yeah, yes. That's right.
He's truth?
I think
he's truth. Yes.
I know
we're ideals. No.
You might be Tony, but we're ideals in this.
Yeah.
Also, this dichotomy was also just like I there were so many times that I was like, is the translation weird or something? Like, is this like maybe a bit grittier in Japanese? Because there's like a line in this scene where it's like, should we liberate Pokemon or should we just continue to live side by side? And it's like, both of those sound chill.
Although, like, I guess liberating Pokemon would just be our world, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, and you also find out one of the, like, you could talk to a bunch of there's like plasma grunts throughout this castle, and like one of them you talk to is like, oh yeah, we've been building this thing in secret for years, and we enslaved a bunch of Pokemon to build it. And it's like, oh, okay. This is not liberating.
Precisely.
I guess that's why it's so ugly too, by the way.
Yeah.
Pokemon built it.
The Fab Five who built it were all Pokemon. No, I mean, like,
Frank Girder.
I think that, like, and again, in keeping with like this game is ultimately always for like young people, the game will sort of never allow villains to have like a point or like be even a little right. So like ultimately Team Plasma is corrupt, but this idea that like that Pokemon
but that's all gets it, right? Like N is still such a confusing character, and even like at the end of this, like you battle N and he's hard for the first time in the game. And then when you beat him, there's like a, once again, 45-minute cutscene with Getsus, where Getsus reveals that N is his son, or potentially reveals that N is his son.
No,
he doesn't come right out and say it, but they have the same last name. It's like
Fjellstead, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. What was it?
Fjellstead. It was
Harmonia. Yeah, it's Fjellstead.
Harmonia, right? And then it turns out
too
that
distracted
N is
looking for it that I missed the joke. Good joke, Tony.
N is not a bad guy. N is just sort of like a passionate, like Pokemon lover. The real bad guy is Getsus, who's been sort of like manipulating everyone, you, N, and everyone else.
And N is like, you know, his son, who seemingly has always been looking for his approval. And like, you could go into one of the rooms, and why I like the design too is like one of the rooms in the castle is like N's like childhood room, and so it's just got a bunch of like toys.
Wait, so he just lived underground underneath the Elite Four?
Well, I think he's like raised down there while this castle's being built, and so it's like, oh, so N like probably doesn't believe in this whole thing, and he's just trying to get Daddy's approval, and gets his daddy is just just using him.
That room is the most bone-chilling room in any Pokemon game.
Yes. I agree.
It is such good, like bewildering, disorienting horror. The scale is all off. Like some things are human size, it goes on forever. Some things are like giant size. It's also, I think that there's something inherently creepy about preserved children's rooms in houses in which like there is no children. It reminds me very much of the original Clock Tower for Super Nintendo. That is like one of my favorite video games ever. Where you're going.
Is that the one where the guy with the big scissors is constantly hunting you and trying to cut off your head?
It's so very, very good. And similarly to that
game, a wild game.
That game is so wild, and like one of my favorite things about it is that the rooms are randomized and it's different every time you play, so there's no walkthrough for it. It's really, really good game, but like that room feels like ripped right from it. And going into that room, there was like such a sense of dread for me. I was like, I genuinely have no idea what this part of the game is about to be. And I finally found myself for the first time in so many years not sure of what was about to happen next in a Pokemon game. And like, that is really something.
It's pretty rare for someone who's played as many Pokemon games as we have played at this point. I just wish, I wish we weren't limited by the technology, you know, like there's something so wildly unsatisfying about watching a static sprite say a bunch of stuff in like text pop-ups, you know, it's like, Pokemon Company, you have to recognize that this is the least ideal way to ever do a cutscene.
I think that goes back to, Tanner, your original criticism, I think in the first episode, about how it's between two worlds of like, you know, we're still figuring out 3D, but we're going to keep some of the 2D stuff. And definitely that comes through in like, you know, in my game or in yours, it's Zekrom, but in my game, it's Reshiram, that's fully 3D on like both screens of the DS, and it swoops down and it's like this giant like dragon, I guess. I still really don't think they're dragons, but this giant fire dragon like comes swooping down to the castle, and it fills up both screens, and then you get the little cutscene there, and then you zoom out of it and it goes back into like the overworld, and then the dragon again is like, you know, 2 squares larger than N, and you're like, okay, well, like, you know, you do the whole thing, or like just don't even bother with it because it takes you out of it, where you're like,
or just like cut to pre-rendered cutscenes, you know, like show me some anime, boys, you know.
Yeah, and then just go straight into the battle. It's like that you do this phase of showing you the overworld again that just totally takes you out of it.
Gosh, it just gets so convoluted. So you eventually end up at the top of the castle in the throne room. N is there sitting on the throne. Obviously has full command of Reshiram in
Zekrom.
my game, Zekrom in your guys' game, right?
Mhm.
No, opposite.
No, it's the opposite of
Oh.
Right.
For me, it's like the games are sort of marketed as like buy the one where like you're gonna catch that one. And it's like what a sick and twisted fake out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that is
I
confusing.
cannot tell these two apart. They're both just like generic creatures.
Well, they're two
They don't even
sides
look
of the
like
same
dragons.
soul or whatever, and like apparently I read this obviously didn't happen in the battle, but like if one of them uses its signature move, so if Reshiram uses Fusion Flare and then you happen to have Zekrom after that use Fusion Bolt, I think, then it will double the power, which is cool, but like, you know, you're never going to figure that out kind of organically. I certainly didn't.
You're jumping ahead because at this point, and like calls Zekrom / Reshiram to his side, and then of course your Lightstone or Darkstone, whichever game you're playing, like bursts to life and turns into the other one, and then you have to like battle it and catch it. I did this because it felt integral to the story.
Yeah.
Like in a way that like usually if something does not fit my character and these are not inanimate objects, I would just be like, I'm going to kill it. But this one was like, I feel like the game does not want me to kill this.
Yeah, you made the right choice.
So I just ended up catching it. And then of course it defaults to the first party member in your party, no matter what. You can't move it. It's always the first party member if it's in your party. They're breaking all sorts of rules in this game. And then you take on N, who has the other one. You beat N.
Getsus comes out and and that's when he like explicitly reveals that N is his son, because he starts calling N like this stupid wimp, his
He is a
warped
wimp.
boy, and a big piece of shit.
He doesn't say that.
I guess he didn't say the last one.
And then you beat him.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to keep your Pokemon. Everyone is allowed to keep their Pokemon. Team Plasma gives up their mission.
But
Roll
all of the
credits.
7
End of the
sages
game.
are allowed to just escape.
Well, they're just guys, right?
I mean,
For now.
Without the
they're
mission,
admins
those are just
of a
dudes.
criminal syndicate, but yeah.
And then credits roll, and we're done with the game.
Before we battle, should we do a good use of scheming, bad use of scheming, and rate Team Plasma versus our previous criminal syndicates? And what do we think about this scheme?
Let's talk about all the previous criminal syndicates. We obviously have Team Rocket in Gen 1, and Team Rocket carries over into Gen 2 as well.
Mhm.
After that, we've got Ruby and Sapphire, and that's Aqua and
Magma?
Magma.
Gen 4 is
Team Galactic.
Team Galactic, right. Team Rocket's whole thing was just stealing Pokemon.
Yeah.
From other
And they just
people.
want good Pokemon, and then they're going to use them to commit crimes.
That extremely straightforward.
I love how fucking straightforward that is.
It's so straightforward and like a little weird too. They give us Mew and Mewtwo as part of their things. I think Team Rocket's the best there is gonna be.
They're easily that's who we're trying to see if anyone can unseat them. Like they're genetically engineering powerful Pokemon. They're stealing. They're committing crimes. Giovanni has
the
great
armored Mewtwo is potentially unbeatable.
For me, it's all of them writing in their diaries about like what they think about Mew, and then like leaving those diaries all around Cinnabar Island. That is
like we're gonna.
I hope no one sees my diary.
This lab, let's burn this lab down, but let's not go back and make sure that all of our secret notes are still there.
Aqua and Magma, their goal was,
I think
Magma's trying
hot.
to cover the Earth in ground to make
Pangea.
A more habitable environment for
land
non-water
dwellers.
Pokemon. And Aqua's the opposite. They're trying to cover the world in water to make a more habitable environment for water Pokemon. I think that's a pretty weak premise.
Yeah, I think really the only credit you could give Team Magma at least is that they've got some sweet little outfits. But
Sure. And they're the sexiest trainers.
yeah, you had a crush on the admins, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scheme's dumb. What's the point of that scheme?
Galactic, I remember being into Galactic, although I can now not remember what their whole thing was.
It's that what's his face, the Nazi.
Okay,
The
now
main
that you're
guy.
describing them as Nazis, I feel like it's
Of course.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, he just does that one rally.
He does a big speech. Yeah.
He does a big fascist speech. He's just a normal fascist, I guess.
I feel like their thing was like, oh yeah, I can get behind that though. Do you remember what their thing was?
Well, the thing was that he's bringing together Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina in order to somehow use other
recreate
powers.
the world
the
just
thread,
for Pokemon,
but recreate it in his image, and we don't really know what his image is, that's why it's potentially problematic.
They want to make a second universe just for them and Pokemon. That's pretty admirable. It's like the opposite of Thanos, and I think this is the point I made at the time. It's not about halving the
Cyrus
resource consumers. It's about doubling the resources. And it's like, yeah, of course that's the solution.
Yeah, but I think it's got some fascist undertones that I don't really love.
Okay, well, if that's what it takes. And then the last one we have is Gen 5, which is Team Plasma. Such a confusing little outfit. They've got medieval knight outfits for no reason.
Into that, though.
They've got a very complex MLM sort of structure.
Yeah.
They really do.
It is definitely a pyramid scheme.
Where some of them are 7 sages, some of them are shadow triads, and their whole thing is liberating Pokemon. Genuinely, from an animal rights perspective,
yeah,
an admirable goal.
Sure. But then we find out that it's secretly just a front, that it's ultimately kind of, we're going to take all the Pokemon and release them so that we have the good Pokemon and none of you have anything, and then etc. Something dastardly. Sort of like a weird take on the Team Rocket scheme, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, something that I find so fascinating about the whole like fake out of like, this is what we believe, which is like is really admirable. Like so many of my notes are like, they're right. Why are they right? I want to sort of join them. But like the idea that it was specifically designed to be popular is like it expands the world, where it's like, oh, this is like a weird inflection point where something like this would be like a massively popular idea. Like what's happened since the last one and this one? Like it has you asking those questions, and those questions have you, the player, expand the world in a way that like the game sort of doesn't.
Right.
The thing too, actually, on that point that I liked about this game specifically and referencing these other syndicates as we are, like there's a grunt in N's Castle if you just talk to him randomly. And he's like, oh yeah, Team Rocket and Team Galactic, like they were too showy. Like it was so obvious what they were doing the whole time. The reason we are going to work is because we've been building this castle. It's bursting out of the ground and like surrounding the Pokemon leagues.
I think for that exact reason, I need to give them a demerit, Team Plasma, because it's a little too QAnon. You know, it's like we have infiltrated like popular culture. We have turned ourselves into the good guys, like the underdogs, the like rebel fighters.
Oh, I see.
You know, and
too much of a scheme.
It's too much of a scheme. Like it's pulling in too many suckers. You know, and like all of a sudden, like Team Plasma,
it's an MLM
hailed everywhere. Yeah, it's an MLM.
All right, what's the ranking we're looking at?
I think Team Rocket, just in terms of like villainy
and straightforwardness,
it's just it's so villainous. You can sort of see where they're coming from. If you're someone who's ethically bankrupt, you know, you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're just stealing Pokemon. If I were ethically bankrupt, I would probably steal Pokemon too. Sure, that's super straightforward. The outfit's banging, right? They look great.
Theme is banging too. Damn.
I think Team Rocket's still
I think it's number I think I go easily Team Rocket's number one. I'm tempted to say, despite the fascism thing, Team Galactic's probably number two.
I think
then
so too.
Team Plasma, and then Team Magma / Team Aqua. I mean,
I'm flipping I'm going the inverse
that?
on those bottom ones, just because I think Team Magma's
hot. Oh, their
sexiness,
sexual attraction,
elevates them for me.
Sure.
Tony,
I'm a Rocket firster for sure. I think the others are about equal, with a case to be made for Plasma in last place, just because I think this is the only time where they don't like. They're not drinking their own snake oil, and for me that makes them less compelling.
We're going over. I think we all agree that Team is still number one in our books. Yeah. We have to do level check, and then we have to battle. All right. right. And let's talk about our teams. Let's talk about their levels. Joshua, I'd like to start with you, and then I'd like to do me, and then I would like to hear about Tony's character and naming scheme.
It's Jerry Samurott level 55. It's Elaine.
Oh, we should say we put a level 55 cap on this.
They're all level 55. So it's just Elaine, Lilligant. It's Uncle Leo, Crocodile. It's Kramer, Electric. It's George, Archeops. And it's Jay Peterman, BEM.
Can I say, just from your naming scheme, the ones that I think you never expected to end up in the final 6 were Uncle Leo, the Crocodile, and Jay Peterman, the BEM?
It's only Uncle Leo. Jay Peterman is definitely one of my favorite characters. Uncle Leo is like mid-tier. I would have preferred that it were Newman. I'm fine with Uncle Leo. Yeah. I'm not upset.
Mr. Keepsies is a hoarder. He hoards found objects that he finds, all inanimate object Pokemon. Nazcalines, Sigilyph, level 55. Gears, Klinklang, level 55. Garbage, Garbodor, level 55. Ice Cream, Vanillux, level 55. Candle, Chandelure, level 55. And a newcomer to the team. Welcome to the team. Again. Chess Piece, Bisharp, level 55.
Okay, so that is troubling. That was a good choice. I'm sorry
had to do something.
Swapped out your 6th one like every episode in a row, essentially.
I keep waiting for that like clincher to like come and help the team.
The Sharp is a problem for me because, as I've said, I have a fighting issue.
That slot was previously filled by the likes of Gigalith and Golurk, Musharma. Like that 6th slot has bopped around quite a bit over the game, but I'm pretty satisfied with Chess Piece, the Bisharp. All right, Tony, here we go.
Yeah.
Tell us about your guy.
What have you got?
It's genuinely really like concept. I personally don't have a character, but I do have a naming convention. And my naming convention is what I think the characters in Marvel's movie, The Eternals, are named. Based on
I assume you're not deeply familiar with Jack Kirby's Eternals comics.
I know so many like deep cut Marvel things. Eternals is just like a complete blind spot for me. And after seeing some of these names like Kingo, I'm just like, wow, this is really gonna demand us to like suspend our disbelief from the rafters. Because like even in fantasy.
Well, and can you tell me, everything I've seen on Twitter has indicated to me that like nobody knows anything about Eternals. Yeah. Like, and it seems like they literally just made it up right now.
And in that spirit, all of these 6 names are canonically Eternals characters. So just based on, the vibes I'm getting, these names will appear in the movie Eternals. Krembolino, who is an Embor. Adavance, who is a Musharna. Queenstop, who is a Vanillux. Bilbil.
Did you say Adavance?
We're gonna need you to provide the spelling.
Did you say Adavance? Like Ativan, the mood-altering drug?
Well, no, Ativan. Well, like Adavance, the character in Eternals. It has nothing to do with Ativan, the mood-altering drug. It's Adavance. Okay. You've heard of Kingo. Now meet his wife, Queenstop, the Vanillux.
And that's real? That's like not a joke?
Stop. None of this is real, John.
See, that's
John still hasn't figured out the premise.
I don't know what the real names are because all the memes are like people editing the little like screen grab and then it just says something Druig and I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like it all sounds like a joke to me.
I was shocked that they got Meryl Streep to play Krembolino. So and like
Kingo, Queenstop.
So Queenstop was a Vanillux.
Yeah. We know and love this famous Marvel character. His name's Bilbil. That's almost a regular name, and it's Excadrill.
Oh. Shit.
The Mayor Edgebut is a Ferrothorn, and a Chandelure named Josh, and that's it.
I'll take that. What was the inspiration for that one being named Josh?
The Eternals, Josh. Pay attention. Jesus.
Well, yeah, that and also like
I just think that one's interesting to me.
Yeah, just like
It's a pretty common name.
If I had to give 2 words to describe,
too common, some would say.
Yeah, if I had to give 2 words to describe Josh, I'd say I'm hot and dead. So Chandelure seemed appropriate.
Respete.
Josh, over the course of my friendship with Josh, he has encountered several other Joshes and always maneuvers to make himself either cool Josh, which always feels like a stretch, or gay Josh, and that requires the other Josh not being gay. And then when the other Josh is gay and cool, which we've encountered before,
one was not cool.
It throws off your whole system.
No, just gay, and then I'm the cool one by default.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Also gay.
He was pretty cool.
I'm also going to say now that I'm extremely concerned about my footing in these battles because I can't get the flamethrower TM until after the Elite Four, and not having a fire Pokemon is looking pretty problematic for me at this point.
First off is Josh v. Tanner to determine the winner of Experience Share Pokemon Podcast, and then we'll move on to see whom of us will take on Tony for the grand championship. Josh, let's find one another on Pokemon Showdown and battle. Bug catchers, we will see you in just a moment and let you know the winner, whomst won that battle.
Good.
Tony, you're looking very ominous now. You're backlit. You're just sort of a shadowy figure. Very spooky.
It is spooky. And I am concerned about my battle with Tony next.
Yeah, I'm stalling because I lost. Obviously, it was actually a pretty close fight, wasn't it, Josh?
You had some good turns. Yeah. I in fact, halfway through it, I gave myself a 60% chance of losing.
Yeah, it was seeming kind of likely that I might be able to pull it off, except for your Crocodile.
I got my shit together where we were basically going 1-for-1. I opened with Lilligant and Tanner opened with Garbodor, and they each killed each other. And Garbodor got out its fucking toxic spikes, which was ruining everyone else's life. And Chandelure ended up killing
Samurott against all odds.
Well, killed Lilligant first and then killed Samurott as well. But then I got Electric out, killed Chandelure.
Right.
And then also happened to
killed everyone. And it wasn't until Crocodile came out that you really picked up steam, because I have no counter against a ground dark.
Yeah, I made a mistake with Bisharp initially. I brought out Electric against that, and you just slaughtered it. And then I brought out Archeops, and then I used Rock Slide, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? And then I used U-turn, brought out Crocodile, and then Crocodile swept the remaining 3.
Yeah,
with Earthquake.
Just so fast. All your Pokemon are so speedy. I tried to drop a scary face on you to get Crocodile out there, but you're just so fast that you killed me before I could scary face you. So you've defeated me. You are once again the champion of Experience Share. And now, Joshua, the mantle is on your shoulders, and you must defend our crown against Anthony Smith, coming in hot with his Eternals, who, I don't know if you guys heard this in the commercial that they play over and over again during NBA games. They saved humanity from the deviants 7,000 years ago.
They sure did.
Let's
Tony,
heat it up.
Parting words?
Yeah.
I'm curious as to how this team is going to go.
You have some of the worst trash talking I've ever heard in my life, Tony.
That's not threatening at all.
Oh, was I supposed to trash talk? Very well. You're so fucking dead, you stupid fucking piece of shit. You awful sack of human garbage. You fucking telomere. You're going down in this fight, which is what you're used to.
I'm going to put the censor beep effect over that whole thing. I don't think we could say that it's a family show.
Yeah, a lot of that is. All right, let's get into it. Joshua v. Tony Smith. Here we go. What a match, gentlemen. Seemed a little touch and go there for a while for Tony, but eventually, Tony, you pulled it out.
I had a groovy little strategy. I didn't realize Josh had no fire, but Fortress to bait fire, and then my Chandelure has the move Flash Fire, where if it switches into fire, it gets powered up. So that was the goal there, but then it didn't work, and my entire strategy fell apart.
Yeah. You got down to 2 Pokemon. You ended up winning on a technicality, something called the Sleep Mod clause, which is
we're
that,
playing
sleep clause mod, which is that 2 Pokemon in a row cannot be put to sleep. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. It would.
I was left with Elaine was my last defender, and I was going up against Excadrill and then Embor.
Right.
So I guess I could have just killed the Excadrill. If I had known about this clause, I probably would have just pedal danced on Excadrill and then hoped that, because it did have Quiver Dance, maybe I could have somehow killed taken enough hits out of Embor that like on the next turn I could have killed it. But that's like pretty chess move. I have no idea. And
I was really very, very ready to lose that once my like ace in the hole fell apart. Josh, that was a really, really good battle. Some really fun brinksmanship there. That's what Pokemoning should feel like.
Yeah, I think that was our best one.
Honestly, I felt good about our battle too, Josh. I feel like this is the closest our battles have been in the last 5 gens. So against all odds, because my team is just a big heap of trash, literally, that I found on the street. So congratulations to Anthony Smith for being the champion of Pokemon this week. Obviously, you get all the rights and any kind of revenue.
This heap of trash is your heap of trash now, Tony.
Our podcast, yeah.
Well, may I use my crown to plug a cute little thing I did?
Well, of course we were about to just let you do that, but you can absorb this into your empire, which is...
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so funny because this podcast is really charted my like weird journey as like a game developer. But I did a really, really cool project with Vice. It's this creepy little point and click mystery indie, like ooky spooky, sort of a horror type game called Party is Such Sweet Sorrow. You can play it for free at partyissuchsweetsorrow.vice.com. I think it's really cool. It's one of those things where it's like, unlike things where you do it and you're like, I can never look at this again. I find myself coming back to this and be like, yeah, I popped off with this one. So I hope that you enjoy playing it as much as I enjoy making it.
Tony is biased, obviously, but I have also played it and I will vouch for him. And it ends in a really good, satisfying joke. It has a great soundtrack, actually, I will say.
Who did this? Who did the music for it, Tony?
Oh my God, this incredible artist called Public Domain.
Really?
Yeah,
it's kind of like lo-fi jazz.
I'll say that like the choice in Public Domain like really and truly popped off. There were people that I know that sent me like screenshots of them Shazamming the music and being like, is this anything? And I was like, I really wish it was. Like, I really wish that we'd been thoughtful enough to like leave an Easter egg there. But like we were over budget, so there could be no Easter eggs. Or if you're not playing this game yet, like there are Easter eggs, maybe go find them.
Go try it. Yeah,
definitely go play it.
There's plenty of room in the budget for Easter eggs, so go find them all. Please do enjoy that.
Party is such sweet sorrow.
.vice.com.
Yep, party, not parting, is such sweet sorrow.vice.com.
The wink.
And when I tell you, we thought of that title very, very early on in the process. It got a good chuckle in the room, and then we were locked into it. So it's a joke that, has worn out its welcome in my brain, but I'm hoping that you are as charmed by it as I was many, many months ago.
This has been Experience Share. It's a Pokemon podcast starring me, Reshitan, aka Tanner Greenring. I am joined, as always, by my co-hosts Foongosh, aka Joshua Fjellstead, and Hydragony, aka Tony Smith. Thank you both for joining me, Bugcatchers. Thank you for tuning in. Please do rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. We say that every week, but we have just charted for the first time. We are number 199 in podcasts.
That's right.
It's because of all of you. We are just behind a podcast that's about a One Piece RPG. One Piece being the pirate-themed anime. So we've really got to beat those scrubs. So please do keep rating and reviewing our show so that we can defeat that One Piece RPG podcast. I'm sure they're incredibly nice people recording that podcast, but we do want to conquer them and defeat them. Please do follow us on social media at EXPSharePod on Twitter and Instagram. We are putting up lots of fun stuff every week. And check out...
Did you say the subreddit?
Our subreddit, reddit.com/r/bugcatchers. Josh is in there doing Reddit stuff. Like, I don't know.
I try. I'm not that good at it.
Being a MGTOW and
what?
Trying like unscheduled drugs. I'm just trying to think of all the stuff Reddit does.
Mostly outsource it to our friend Mike Levine, a fellow Wesleyan grad.
Mike Levine is just one of the loveliest people in the world.
Experimental drug taker and MGTOW Mike Levine. I assume because he's on Reddit. Yeah, go follow us on Reddit. It's a blast. Mike's always in there, like doing a lot of fun stuff and engaging with the community in a fun way. Joshua?
Yeah.
Is there anywhere people can buy merch?
Yeah, it's at experiencesharemerch.com. EXPSharemerch.com.
That's Experience Share. It's a Pokemon podcast. Tony, Bugcatchers, Joshua, thank you so much for joining this evening. Goodbye.
Smell you later.
Bye, cuties.